Dag Eve, agus tá fáilte romh, is mis an Kelly Bug. Hello and you're welcome. I'm the little storyteller. I am coming to you today with another Patreon Insider video. So those of you who are following along with the monthly subscription would have seen the most recent story called The House of Dawn or Chuck Dawn. And I thought I'd bring you a little bit of an insight into where the themes, like again, the resources that I'm going to pull out these stories, and where the kind of themes and maybe some of the kind of notices or imagery is actually coming from in regards to its position within Irish lore. So the main source that I took for this one is hard copy this time. That is upside down for you. There we go. So it is the Dr. Dottie O'Hogan's Myth, Legend and Romance. And this is a fantastic resource for the myth, legend and romance, an encyclopedia of Irish folk traditions. So having the books on the bookshelf are a valuable resource as much as going online. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read out like the segment on Dawn from here. And maybe if you've read the story already, you might pick up on some of the imagery involved. If you haven't, then maybe it'll kind of interest you enough to go and have a look at that story. So I'm just going to read what's written in the encyclopedia here. I won't read the entire thing, but I'll give you a bit of an insight as we go through. So, Dawn. In ancient times, the adjective could also signify dark, or the character of Dawn as perennially associated with the shadow realm of the dead. He is, however, also represented as an ancestor of those who die, and his name therefore seems to have been originally an epithet of a deity known as the Dagda. Dawn is referred to in several early texts. Particularly striking is the reference to the death tale of Conair, he who is slain by three red-haired men, sons of Dawn, king of the dead, at the Red Tower of the Dead. These three are further quoted as saying, "We ride the horses of dawn. Although we are alive, we are dead." So, in treating this shady personification of death, the writers of pseudo-history rationalized him into one of the leaders of the fanciful ancient migration to Ireland of the Gael people. These writers described how one Don, son of Mill, was drowned in Inverskeen, Kenbear Bay in County Kerry. In this, they are echoing an earlier belief that in that area the deity inhabited the island known as Teach Dúin, literally Dawn's house, and now called Bull Rock. So one 9th century source attributes a very significant line to his personage. "To me and to my house you shall all come after your death." Other sources from the 8th and 10th century refer to Teach Dúin as a place where the dead assemble, and describe deceased people as travelling to and from it. Repeated references in the literature show that Teach Dúin was regarded as the western extremity of Ireland, and it is tempting to connect the locating of Dún there with the writer Plutarch. Referring to a deity who lives in a sleepy state on an island off the land to the west of Britain, Plutarch calls him by the name of the Greek god of the dead, Cronus, and again the same writer described how fishermen in that land were wont to hear strange boats travelling at night to distant destinations, where the names of those who disembarked were called out. So there's a couple of other information here. So the word dawn is kind of viewed as an opposite to find, which is illumination. So it's that kind of shadow element, or the opposite of it. Other areas where we find dawn turn up is in the Don Cunha, which is the name of the brown bull of Cooley in the later Ulster cycle. So there's a lot of mythology around this, and it doesn't just stick within the early kind of immigrations into Ireland of the Sons of Mill, or before that with the Tuatha Danann and the link to Dagda as Dagda Dawn. And it carries on after that. So, this is an existent character who carries on through Irish folklore from, again, we have records from the 8th, 9th and 10th centuries, but it carries on all the way up into further religious tales and later on where there's references. And there's one that I really enjoyed here. So at Knockferna, he was known as Don Ferna, and the entrance to his palace was believed to be through a cavity near the summit of the hill. Folklore told of people being brought into the hill to be with Don when they died, and this was not seen to conflict with Christian belief. since it was rationalized by the opinion that such people were not really dead, but they'd been kidnapped by him. He was said to often leave his residence at night riding a white horse, and such folk accounts of him have been influenced by legends of other spiritual beings. For instance, he took a man with him on a terrifying ride throughout Ireland, and he was said to take away accomplished hurlers to join his team in hurling matches against rival otherworldly communities. So I really enjoy that because it shows Don not as a death figure in the classical sense, not as in a Grim Reaper, even though he is riding a white stallion, but it's that kind of otherworldly being, this otherworldly kind of deity slash Fey Lord, or she in essence, who kind of takes people away, and it doesn't butt against the Christian belief because people go, oh well, no, he was taken by the she. He's not dead. He was taken into the house of the dead or by the she. But the fact that he had kidnapped accomplished hurlers to join his team, just always seems absolutely entertaining. Um, so there was a couple of other things in regards to the linking to the horses and the connection with Don's horses. Um, there's another. There we go. Yeah. So linking to that Knockferna location. And this gathering, the portrayal of Don as a phantom rider led to the connection being drawn between him and another ghostly figure in Limerick lore, the Earl of Desmond. And as a result of this, the image of a wizard was borrowed from the Earl of Don. Thus, one folk narrative has a man being brought into a fine palace in Knockferna and finding there Don as an old man, clothed in white, and instructing a large number of young students in the mysteries of creation since the stars began to shine. So, again, I won't read out the entire thing in regards to that, but this is one of my main resources. As I said, it's the Encyclopedia of Lore of Ireland, Fairy Lore of Ireland by Dr. Dahi Hogan. As I dove into the story, I'm dealing with, of course, the epithet of Dag the Dawn. And when we look at him as a member of the Sidhe, a lord of the Sidhe, or a king of Ireland, he has this place. He holds a house for hospitality. So the idea that, Teachtawn, the House of the Dead, would it not be a house for passing on and stopping off in regards to what it says in the book there? That's not just a mortuary, a sepulcher of, like, dead people kind of bemoaning their previous existence. It's a passing through house. It's like when you move on, and so that really kind of stuck with me for the imagery. One thing that surprised me as I was writing through the story, um, I kind of finished out the story, and if you've read it or if you haven't read it as yet, I hope you do go and enjoy it. Um, it's a narrative as the character, the storyteller, moves through Teachtawn, moves through the House of the Dead. And it was only after I wrote the story and I looked back at it through the editing process that I realized that it kind of touched on some of the other information, other lore references that I have in my head. One of the stories being about the destruction of Doderica's hostel. So it's a later story in the folklore where this king of Ireland, this failed king, is actually sent. He's kind of summoned forward, and in a lot of the traditional things, he ends up breaking multiple geas along the way, which leads to his demise and his doom. And it does mention another party of Red Riders there, and he is brought into this house known as the Dá Dearg's hostel, or the Red Hostel. And as the this king moves through, moves through different rooms within the hostel, and kind of glances into doors here and there. And it's another story where Dagda actually turns up as well, because there's a reference to the kitchens. So as this king is moving through the Dá Dearg's hostel, he glances in, he sees the kitchens with the three kitcheners, and there's the older man who's kind of instructing these two younger men, and the older man is said to be the Dagda, and he's instructing both Sig and Segde, which are the sons of Rofer Singlespit. And so as I was going through back over the story, like I included the kitchen element in regards to it and when I was writing it, but that really kind of resonated back with me. So it's this journey and this experience as someone moves from their own existence into an otherworldly experience in a certain way. So that gives you a bit of an insight into the resources. Again, the Dahlia Hogan is a fantastic encyclopedia to go through and to check over, but there is all of these other fantastic influences in regards to Irish folklore and stories. which are my pleasure to kind of experience for myself, but also to retell and to bring forward for you. So thank you very much for joining me for this Patreon Insider. As ever, thank you for your support to my community. I wouldn't be able to carry on doing this without you. And I look forward to being here and supplying more of this awesome content. Gaurav Mila Mahagas, thank you very much. Agus Langafo. Goodbye for now.